judge Jephthah. After the judge Jair died, the people of Israel kept sinning, and again they're in bondage, but this time about the Ammonites, and there's a guy named Jephthah, and he was a mighty warrior, but his half brothers weren't so good, so they kicked him out of his house and his country. So later on, old people came to Jephthah and told them that they want him to fight for the Israelites. But he was like, "Didn't you kick me out of my house and my country?" But he did anyways, and he prayed that if he comes back from war, he's going to sacrifice the first person he sees. So he fought against the Ammonites and won. And when he first got there, the first person he saw was his daughter. Then later on, he told her what happened. So she said, "Can I go more with my friends for a couple months?" And so she let her. And it was time for her to sacrifice her. So we don't know if he killed her or just sent her away. Then there became a tradition where women of Israel have to leave for 4 days in honor of Jephthah's daughter. And the lesson is never make a vow that you don't want to keep. Next week is Samson.
Hi guys, Seth Dad here, and I just want to talk to you a little bit. First of all, I want to thank you for watching our YouTube channel, for taking time to subscribe. I encourage you can go there and you can do that. Seth so enjoys doing this, and I do as well. So I just want to talk to you a little bit today. The lesson this week that Seth was talking about was being a man of our word. I want to share some scriptures with you about that, how you and we're called to keep our word today as well. Numbers 3:2 says this. It says, "If a man vows a vow to the Lord or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth." And then in Psalms 89:34 it says, "I will not violate my covenant or alter the word that went forth from my lips." You know, we live in a world today where people aren't as loyal as they were before. They're not as, if we say we're going to be somewheres, we need to keep our word and be there. This scripture talks about with God. Sometimes when we're in worship or we're in a church service and we can get moved by our emotions and we make a pledge or a vow towards God. Say, "God, I'll never do this." Now, sometimes we get ourselves in a pickle. We get ourselves in a mess. We say, "God, if you get me out of this, I'll never do that again and I'll serve you." And then God makes a way for us to get out of that, and we turn our backs sometimes. So it's better not to even make that vow than to make a vow and break it. And you know, a man's word is all they've got. I always say it like this. So keeping your word is actually character. But character is a choice. We have gifts that God gives us. Those aren't choice. God gives us gifts. People give us gifts. We don't have the choice on that. But our character is a choice. And you know how big of a choice it is? It depends, because we have options to make choices every day. What we do, if we keep our word or we break our word. You know, one of the things I learned a long time ago was if somebody asked me to be somewheres or do something, I have to wait. Okay, let me figure out and make sure that if I tell you I can be there, I can be there. Because maybe I come home and my wife says, "Well, we're supposed to be here instead." Then I wouldn't be able to keep my word. Here's another scripture in Matthew 5:37. "Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil." So for you and we need to be people that are, slow to speak. Again, when somebody asks us to do something, we need to think about it and say, "Hey, can I do that?" I've got myself in trouble, especially in ministry years past, where I made so many commitments that I was overwhelmed or I was tired, and it was really hard to fulfill one. And the reality is we want to make sure that we fulfill our word and we keep our word. So there was a TV show on when I was a junior high, I guess, into high school. It was called Little House on the Prairie. And Charles Ingalls was the dad. And Charles made a commitment to every episode had a lesson. It was a life lesson. And Charles had told a woman her husband had passed away. And when her harvest was ready to be brought in, Charles said, when it's ready, I'll be there to do it. I'll be there to harvest your harvest this year and help you because your husband, is gone. Well, just before the harvest was ready to be harvested, Charles got malaria. He got very sick. He has shivers and sweating and sick. And his wife said, what are you going to do, Charles? And he said, I'm going to go get the crop in. I gave her my word. And at the end of the show, he comes up on his wagon, and he's still sick, and he's still not well. But everybody else came, and they worked the harvest as well. The point is Charles was so committed to keeping his word that he went that day. And in today's world, we need to make sure that, first of all, we keep our word to God. If God asks us to do something, or we make a pledge or a vow to do something to the Lord, then we need to do it. We need to keep our word with our employers, our teachers, our parents. We need to keep our word. When we say we're not going to do that again, don't do it again. If we say we're going to do it, do it. We need to keep our word with one with another. We need to not make promises that we don't keep. I think a lot of times people mean well, but they'll make a promise based on how they feel, and then when it comes time to fulfill it, they don't feel it anymore, and they back out. But we want to be people that keep our word. So I just want to encourage you today, keep your word. Think about things that God has told you to do or that you want to do, your parents tell you to do, or your teacher, your employer, and be a person of your word. Until next week, we thank you so much for watching.